Hello everyone and welcome to Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com, the number one Superman fan site in the world. In this our August 14th, 2023 show, we're going to be covering a range of topics, including some Blue Beetle movie Man of Steel connections. We're going to be talking about the latest episodes, yes, that was plural, of My Adventures with Superman, because Michael didn't watch last week, so I'm sure he wants to catch up on what he saw. We're going to be talking about the comic books and so many more things. We're also going to turn to you for your questions and comments on any particular Superman topic you would like to discuss, and to let you know how all that works and how you can get involved in tonight's show. Let me introduce you to my co-host, Michael Bailey. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Steve, how's it going?
Doing well, and yourself?
Oh, I'm doing okay.
That's good.
It's been a long day, but we're gonna wrap it up talking about Superman. I didn't watch both episodes today. I watched one yesterday. We watched the most recent one today, so I am caught up. I'm not a slacker. I'm not a work shy fop, as some people would say. But they don't want to hear about what I do in my spare time. They want to hear us talk about Superman, because Superman Homepage Live is all about the Man of Steel. And we, as your hosts, want to hear from you as you watch the show. So, about halfway through the show, if we don't have too much going on, which tonight, it's looking like we don't have too much going on unless I start yakking, you can go to supermanhomepage.com/live and press the Call Now button. And that'll put you in the green room. Or you can use the QR code with your smartphone and call in that way. Either way, please, if you're using an external mic, please mute that. If you're using your phone, use headphones, because either way, there are complications if you don't.
Exactly. So yes, make sure you use those. But if you're a little bit shy and don't want to get on the phone or call us tonight, then feel free to participate in the comments, both on YouTube and on Facebook. Michael and I can see those comments and ask any questions you might want to ask of us. We can respond to those as the show goes on. But if you're watching on YouTube and you want to have your question or comment featured on the screen during the show, that's called a super chat. All you do is click the dollar symbol there on YouTube. A slider will appear on your screen. You decide on the dollar amount you're willing to donate. We will feature your comment or question live on the screen as we go along. There are also super thanks and super stickers if you want to give those a try. And thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and Tina Murray. We appreciate your support. You can join those fine folks and support the show simply by going to the patreon.com/Superman homepage site, or you can click the join button below on YouTube. There are different levels of membership with different levels of perks. One of them being a nice new minted Lois Lane motion poster designed by me from My Adventures with Superman. It's a cute little poster that you'll be able to print out or download and do what you will with it. But different levels of membership, as I said, for different perks that you can get joining the Superman homepage membership on YouTube. Well, Mike, it's been a little bit of a slow news week in the world of Superman. There hasn't been a lot going on other than new episode of My Adventures with Superman, new comic books and stuff. But it's been a little bit quiet on the movie front, obviously because there's the writers' strike and the actors' strike, and nobody's kind of doing anything at the moment other than marching and protesting, for their rights as is necessary in certain instances. I saw Brandon Routh was out there supporting all the other cast members from the Arrowverse world of the CW were also out there picketing. So more power to them.
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of those things where it's pretty easy to side with the actors and the writers who are just wanting to get paid on time. If I didn't get paid on time, I could sue my company. I'm just saying. I don't know why they can't. And that's the least of the problems that they're striking over. So Jack Quaid was out there too. Somebody was posting pictures of him on the picket line as well. Got a bunch of different Supermen out there.
Yeah, indeed. But speaking of what's happening with the movies, the new Blue Beetle movie is coming out, and I'm hearing a lot of good things about it. Not just because they say it's a good movie, but also for representation's sake, with the character being of Hispanic. Is Jaime Hispanic in the Blue Beetle? I don't know a lot about.
Oh yeah. Jaime Reyes. When they introduced him in Infinite Crisis, And boy, are people trying to jack those comics up on eBay right now.
Mm.
I had to rebuy mine because when I did my big comic purge, I accidentally sold a box that I didn't want to sell. Uh, and yeah, people are putting the first appearance of that Blue Beetle up for stupid money because there's a movie. But yeah, Jaime was Latino or Latinx or however he wants to refer to himself.
There you have it. So there's supposedly, and thank you to Brad, as I'll just put that up again, who put up a nice thank you super
Yep.
chat for us. Brad's saying he loves the show, been watching for ages. So thanks, guys, for doing the show. Love it. Thank you very much, Brad. Appreciate your little tip there. So thank you very much. That's much appreciated. But we mentioned the Blue Beetle movie because supposedly there's some Man of Steel references in the film. And Zack Snyder on Twitter, kind of promoted the film and said, get out there and watch it kind of thing. And I guess there's a bit of a connection there between the movies. That's interesting. It is a standalone film. I have heard that James Gunn has said that, while this kind of kicks off the new DCU, if you like, it's not connected to any of the other films, but it kind of stands alone on its own. But the fact that there are Man of Steel references in it is quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the script has probably been around for years and years and years, so
Mm.
they would make more sense. I mean the movie looks good. I enjoyed the two trailers I saw. I like the kid whose name I'm not going to butcher.
Mm.
Um, I like the kid playing Jaime because he's one of the main people in Cobra Kai, which is
Yes.
a fantastic show. And it's got George Lopez, who I also love. It's not going to be a theater because we don't really go to the theater all that often. I mean, I think really the next time I'm going to go to the theater that I have planned, unless something really big comes along, is Superman Legacy. Uh,
Fair
so
enough.
whenever that comes out now. Um, but no, it's just the only thing I'm not looking forward to with the Man of Steel reference is that it's going to give certain people on social media something to kind of complain about um, again
Or,
and again and again.
or hang their hat on.
Yeah, it's just it's just like, well, they mentioned it, so you know what that means. And look, Zack Snyder's promoting this. That means Warner Brothers is about to hand him the keys to the kingdom, and they're about to buy Netflix so he could have the entire channel. Netflix will turn into nothing but the Zack Snyder channel. That is, I think, their ultimate goal.
Interesting, kind of like a sidetrack here, but um, did Gal Gadot do a Dwayne Johnson and announce something that isn't going to happen? I heard her saying, or she went out and said that Wonder Woman 3 is happening, that she's met with James Gunn, but supposedly that's not true.
Yeah, I don't know. It's entirely possible that she was told something and maybe said something too early. I haven't looked too deeply into that
Mm.
because I try not to look. I try not to stare into that abyss, lest the abyss stare back. Um, but I'm hoping not. You see, here's the thing. I really don't see the need. Like some people are like, they need to completely recast everybody. That
Mm.
doing it piecemeal is going to somehow make you know make the new version not as new and fresh. And to a certain extent, I can see that. To another extent, if they're really good in the role, why would you recast? Why would you recast Viola Davis, who, by the way, was completely wasted in Black Adam? Like her two scenes is literally her talking to a screen.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it was an easy check, but for somebody wanting like a good hard hitting Amanda Waller scene, you weren't going to find it in that. Um, but why recast her? And if Gal Gadot is still up for playing Wonder Woman, why recast her unless you're doing something completely and utterly different from what you were doing before?
Yeah, I guess it becomes confusing if you have Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, but then you have a different Superman than Henry Cavill meeting up with her. It becomes confusing to people. They go, "Well, that's not the guy that we saw before." So if you are building a universe, but if you're not, if you're just doing standalone films, then yeah, sure. But if she is going to cross over with new characters playing roles of characters that her character met before, then that becomes all very confusing, and everyone's like, "Well, what? I don't get it." But yeah, it's just very interesting times. It is kind of a bit convoluted. It is hard. I feel sorry for people like Gal Gadot and Henry Cavill, who are fan favorites in the roles, but
Mm-hmm.
the films that where things were going just didn't do the numbers that the company, which is a business, needed it to do. And so
Mm-hmm.
while they might be ideal for the roles they're playing, things happen and you have to scrap them and scrap plans and go in a new direction and try to build a new universe. And then those people get left behind because they just are part of the previous iteration.
I mean, it's just so weird that Warner Brothers, in particular, has and DC Comics films in particular have such a habit of like starting something or
Mm.
even like casting something and almost getting to the filming stage and then not going through with it. I mean, Superman Lives in the late 90s, the George Miller Justice League film that never went anywhere. Um, the Superman Returns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got one movie, uh, and I would argue, and this is me stirring the pot specifically. I would argue, as much as Batman v Superman is a follow up film to Man of Steel, we never got a true Superman sequel.
Yeah,
Like
agreed.
one that focused on Superman and Superman solely and focused on his character.
Mm.
They jumped right into BVS and then right into Justice League, and then that turned into a nightmare.
Mm.
So it's just Marvel. Marvel's had some false starts, but it seems like since 2008 they've had things in gear and ready to go. I guess the closest maybe would be Andrew Garfield not getting a third Spider-Man film, even though it was announced.
Mm. Yeah, I guess they had a map planned out and they went with it regardless. And the fact that everything was so successful and box office was there for them, they didn't have to second guess themselves. Where I guess Warner Brothers and DC Comics have been gun shy, and as soon as something didn't do the numbers that they wanted it to do, they
Mm-hmm.
backed away from it and said, "No, no, scrap plans." And the fact that they've changed so much in the head office, if you like, the people who are running the business have their own ideas and their own favorite directors and what have you that they want to work with, and their own ideas for what a character should be like. And so when you have the front office chopping and changing, then everything filters down beneath that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with Blue Beetle and how much the references, what kind of references they are to Man of Steel. Whether it's the fact that we maybe see some footage of Henry Cavill that we've seen before, referencing Man of Steel or referencing events, or whether it's the symbol or what it might be, we don't know. But we'll keep an eye out for that, and I hope that it does well, because it's about time a DC film did better numbers than what we've been seeing in recent times. Speaking about going to the theater, I actually just went on the weekend. I went and saw. It's been a while out now, but I went and saw the new Indiana Jones film, and I've seen every other one that came out in the theater, so I wanted to make sure I caught this one in the theater before. And now I'm seeing it's hitting digital at the end of this month, so that happens.
Yeah, okay. Was it good?
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. I mean, it's a lot of action and not much story so much, but it's what you expect from an Indiana Jones film. It's not too deep. It
Yeah,
was fun.
awesome. Yeah, I will see it at some point.
Mm,
It's not that I dislike Indiana Jones, and I'm not even holding like the last film against the new film.
mm.
Um, I'm just not in a hurry to see a new Indiana Jones
No,
movie.
fair
It's
enough.
really
No,
weird.
something I definitely grew up with, so I'm a big fan of the series. But let's move on and look at the television side of things, where yes, My Adventures with Superman continues on. The most recent episode we saw was. I'll just get back into my screens here. Well, firstly, because you didn't get to see last week's episode, do you want to talk about episode? What was it? Episode 6,
Six. Yep.
which
Um.
was My Adventures with Mad Science, the one where Jimmy gets abducted by Monsieur Marla and the Brain.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. This was an interesting take on those characters. Usually they're bad guys. In fact, if you look at like Monsieur Mala's original Who's Who entry, he's like got a bandolier of bullets, and uh, I like that they did keep their relationship,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that Grant Morrison like did as a throwaway thing that future writers just hopped onto. Um, Apparently, in an issue of Doom Patrol, they were about to die. There was about to be an explosion, and just randomly they looked at each other and said, "I always loved you," um, which is funny. Here, they're not bad guys.
No.
They're amusing. They're not strictly on the side of angels, and their ethics are questionable.
Yes.
But I liked it a lot. I thought it was interesting that we were watching it, and my wife's just like, "Why is he panting?" And I didn't realize that he was. And then I they once again showed like the red dome. I'm like, "Oh, it's a red sun energy. That's
Mm.
interesting."
Mm.
And then they revealed that like a couple minutes later. But no, it's one of those things where you're deepening the mystery of Clark trying to figure out who he is and where he comes from. It also resolved the whole thing with Lois and Jimmy and Clark. Um, I think they could have pointed out that Lois lied to them several times in the first episode, but that's I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. That's it. That way lies madness. But no, excellent episode.
Cool.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun indeed. So the most recent episode was, in fact, Kiss Kiss Fall in Portal, Season 1, Episode 7. It's the episode of Mixius Pitalik and the League of Lois Lanes. Obviously, being a big Mixie fan, I enjoyed this version. Obviously, it's not Gilbert Gottfried, but it's not intended to be. It's obviously a completely different thing, and I loved this episode. I thought there was a lot of great secrets revealed. I love how the hat, was incorporated, because I saw a lot of people going, "He doesn't have the hat, the bowler hat," and I went, just wait, hold your water, because it's there and it's an important part. Well, what did you think of Kiss Kiss Fall in Portal?
It's funny because it wasn't a bad episode, but I'm a little burnt out on multiverses at this point. So it's like a cool idea.
Yeah.
But this is the first time where I looked at the people behind the show and went, "You really went there? Like, did we need to go to the potential of evil Superman this quickly?" Uh,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, that was like one of the big things of the first season of Superman and Lois. So it's not even that much like in the past that this idea was played with in another adaptation. And I'm just so tired of evil Superman. Um, I thought the League of Loises were annoying and obnoxious and mean. It was a good concept, though. But more than anything, I just kind of liked what I did like about the episode is how they're dealing with Lois and Superman's relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that it is like it isn't a cute will they won't they we're gonna have like the drop of anime sweat or just the pink cheeks and like the oh are we gonna do this? No, they're going for it. So that was fun. Lois having the kryptonite at the end was interesting, but it seemed I'm willing to bet that this is something they're seeding for next season. Uh, that this is going to be something that they dropped here, and they're going to finish out the storyline they're working with, and then next season deal with the more with the League of Loises. Unless I'm completely wrong, and the League of Loises show up in the final episode of the season and save the day, which
No,
is entirely possible.
no, I think you're on the money there. I like the way that this show refers to other versions, we saw when Mixie appeared, he was like, pretty much in every version, Clark hit Superman, and he showed the Fleischer Superman, he showed Superman
Mm-hmm.
the animated series. There was a Superman crab. I don't know what that was all about, but
It was a good gag. I liked it.
and then even then, when Lois went and found out about Lois Prime and the other versions of Lois, there were versions of Lois in that, holograms that were not necessarily ones that we've actually ever seen before, but they referenced, like, there was an American Indian Lois in the background. There was almost, I think,
Dana Delaney.
yeah, Dana Delaney Lois. There was a Lois in a hijab, like as if she was
Yeah.
a Muslim Lois. So there was just very many different versions, just kind of hinting that everything can be in the multiverse available to us.
And they didn't hang a lantern on it, but I'm pretty sure Lois Lane is a trans Lois.
Mm,
Um, that's the vibe I got off the character. I could be wrong there and just seeing something, but again, they didn't hang a lantern on that,
no.
so it's something that it's one of those things where if you want to see it into that, you can because there's no evidence against it, but there's no evidence really for it. So it's rife for you imprinting whatever you want on
Yeah.
it. The action was great. I think I really like that we are seeing this Superman start to step up and be Superman. Um, and I really liked that he wasn't really on board until he heard that Lois was in danger, and then he was just like all in
Mm.
on it. And thank you, Jimmy, for knowing when to not be the third wheel.
Yeah. Yes, there was obviously the kiss. The two shared a kiss in this. There was the expressions of love,
Yeah,
and it was all through a very heightened, fight scene where portals were here, there, and everywhere, and there was chaos in the background. But the two found a quiet moment to be able to express their feelings for one another, and it just was on there was a very full episode. There was a lot going on and a lot to take in, but it just felt like it was well kind of paced out. And then at the end, even though we thought Mixie was captured and what have you, he's never very far away from doing something crazy again. And he reveals the data sphere to Lois, as you said, with that information about other versions of Superman being evil, which kind of plants a seed of doubt in her mind about just how well she does know her Superman.
the one thing that I would have liked to have seen, they didn't have any time for it, but something I hope they actually kind of maybe deal with is Martha's reaction to Clark opening up to people
Mm.
because she was really nervous about it to begin with. She was nervous about him exploring his past in any way. And now, not only has he done that, but now other people know the secret that they've worked so hard to keep.
Mm.
So I'd kind of like to see how that, because I like this version. I mean, I know they had pictures of like with Jimmy, but that made sense because Jimmy's been his friend since their freshman year of college. So he's probably gone home and spent time with Clark and his family.
Remember last week when we were talking about Lois Lane's age? In this one, she was made to
Mm-hmm.
feel a little bit inadequate because all the others had won a Pulitzer by the age of 21, and she was like, I'm 23 and I'm not even a full-fledged reporter yet. So she kind of felt a little bit.
Yeah, but do they reveal that that was probably one of the Loises from like the golden age who started reporting at age 15? I mean, come on,
Uh, yeah, but
be fair here.
I like the way that Mixie went. You're the fun Lois. Lois Prime would have liked you, and because your first reaction to meeting a league of Lois Lanes is to distrust them, and be very Lois Lane in that you kind of don't take anything at face value.
Hmm. No, and they were not trustworthy. Um, I don't know how Superman managed to convince them that he wasn't a danger because he seemed to show up with them and everything was fine, which was a little weird. Uh,
I think once Mixie left
but
him behind on that planet, it was like, okay, well, this guy isn't, in league with Mixie as we assumed.
what did you think of the crystals growing out of his skin?
When the kryptonite,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a really interesting kind of that will you'll see more of that moving forward. But
Okay.
and I will reveal here that I have seen the finale now. I've watched all 10 episodes of season one, and it's interesting seeing the comments from people about what they're guessing about. Big Daddy El Rob in the comments saying, "I think Lois and Jimmy will visit Smallville this season," and seeing other comments and your interest in the League of Lois Lanes, whether or not they'll show up again before this season ends, or whether that will be something they held on to next season. It's all quite interesting knowing what is coming, and it's kind of I imagine what the writers and creators of this show sitting back watching everyone's comments along the way, like it must be an interesting position for them to be in, having done everything and sitting back and watching the reactions of fans. But yeah, that was a really interesting kind of, we've got the green veins like we've seen in other versions where, you can see that it's kind of affecting him in that way. But seeing that like crystal growth coming out of him was creepy, but cool.
Yeah, it's just like they're like, well, Smallville did the green veins. What can we do different?
Yeah.
And they managed to find something.
Yeah, and that will show up again in upcoming episodes, not just with Superman, but with other characters. So, or other things, I should say, not characters. But yeah, let's hold that until we move forward with other episodes. And speaking of other episodes, we have a new episode coming this Friday or Thursday night, depending on which way you want to look at midnight. It is titled 0 Day Part 1. Here is the promo trailer for 0 Day Part 1 for My Adventures with Superman. Check it out.
Huh? On the next all-new episode of My Adventures with Superman.
Oh my god!
What's super hearing like?
It's nuts! I can hear, cat and tree. I can hear everyone. And Jimmy. They have problems.
My Adventures with Superman. All new next Thursday at midnight on Adult Swim. Next day on Max.
You been sleeping much, buddy?
Not for a few days.
I've seen a lot of people commenting about coffee, like what the things that we get all hung up on. Does coffee even affect Superman? Like, it's a morning ritual. He's trying to be a normal person. It's a gag, exactly. It's not showing that he's hyped up on coffee. If anything, he hasn't slept. He's been listening to people's problems for like 24/7 or whatever it has been in this episode. And he's just, and even Red Bull is in there as well. It's just like, he's just trying to, it's just a gag, like you said, showing that he is strung up because he is just so burnt out trying to, now that super hearing's kicked in, trying to actually, shut it out.
That's interesting because usually we don't really get to see Superman dealing with how to balance work life, basically. How he can have some kind of normal life, that he's not constantly on patrol, constantly. I mean, he's always listening out for trouble, but there's a difference between kind of being ready for trouble and like having your hearing open at all times, looking for it, almost. So,
yeah, it's a really interesting way of looking at super hearing, kicking in. Smallville did a great job of, heat vision kicking in, and that was like a really interesting way of how that came about. But imagine, getting super hearing and not being able to shut it off. It would drive you mad. And as someone's saying, Dyna Guy in the comments, very interesting topic to tackle. Clark has to deal with when to stop being Superman, because he cannot do it 24/7. The whole premise of the episode 1 was him trying to be a normal guy, having a normal day and not doing anything, super heroic. And now here he has a new power that is pretty much stopping him from being able to be normal, because all he can do is hear people, and people have problems. Jimmy. Wow, that would drive you absolutely bonkers.
Absolutely.
So, it's a really fun episode. It is part 1 of a 2-parter. Do you have any thoughts on the words 0 Day in the title?
It says 0 Day Part 1. So I'm assuming that is probably something to do with one of the operations from the General and Waller and Slade.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that if it's part one, then I mean, is it? You don't have to answer this question. Is it like a 3-part season finale?
No, so it's part one and part two. The
Okay.
final episode is titled Hearts of the Fathers." Um,
Okay.
but this one is described as Lois meets her journalism idol Vicky Vale, only for Vicky to make Lois question her loyalty to Superman. Meanwhile, Superman hunts down Task Force X while dealing with a new power. So yeah, the other side of this, is Lois's role in this episode, meeting Vicky Vale, who is her journalism idol. Um, Really interesting kind of angle there on how Lois deals with meeting her idol, and one of those, what's one of those sayings? Never meet your heroes.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's usually not a good idea, and I'm just amused that the character that was created to be an ersatz Lois Lane is now being in this one portrayed as the one that she looks up to. That's kind of an interesting twist. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but that's kind of fascinating.
Mind the Gap in the comments asks me, now that I've seen the whole season, if there was ever a ground up Superman comic book reboot and it was written exactly like this, would you like it? That's an interesting question, and it's pretty hard to kind of answer because comic books, if it was done in, let me put it this way, like they did with Superman the Animated Series, how they went with Adventures of Superman comic book series that kind of told stories from the same universe, I would love that because I love these versions of the characters, and that would be really interesting to see them go down that road with telling more stories once the animated series is done, or telling stories in between episodes, if you like. I wouldn't like it as the main titles. I wouldn't necessarily want them to change everything up in Superman and Action Comics to be this way, but I wouldn't mind seeing a comic book series done about this universe.
And taking the question, in maybe a different direction. Like, what if they canceled all the other Superman books and then started one like this? I mean, I think I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to try to sound elitist or arrogant. You get to a certain point where you've seen enough reboots that you either get sick of them, get really excited every time one comes around, or just take it as it comes.
Hmm.
And I'm definitely now just like, okay, I'll give it a shot. If I like it, I like it. If not, something's coming along later, anyways. Um, I don't know if I would want to read a comic with this art style.
No, fair
Mainly
enough.
because I like the animated series because it's an animated series that has a specific art style.
Hmm.
Um, I think, to be fair to Superman Adventures, uh, that art style lent itself to comics,
Yeah.
as they proved with the Batman Adventures book. Uh, but if this was like the main Superman book and this was the art style, I probably would enjoy it, but it would never be my favorite because I just don't like this in comic book form. I
Mm-hmm.
know that's a weird nit to pick, but that's just how I am. It's why I don't read a lot of new comics because there's a new style of art that just doesn't appeal to me. And if I don't like the art, I'm really not going to get into the story.
No, well, it's a visual medium, so that's
Yeah.
understandable, and that's a very mature way to look at, uh, a story, a version of the story, because I've seen so many fans go, I don't like this, they should cancel it. It's like, well, maybe just because you don't like it doesn't mean everybody doesn't like
Yeah.
it. So if you don't like it, don't watch it. That's fair enough. But yeah, wishing it to be cancelled just because it's not something you're enjoying is a bit immature.
Yeah, I'm the guy that didn't like BVS, but I still think they should have released Zack Snyder's Justice League, and let it rise, be a success or not on its own merits. And that's coming from somebody who doesn't like this version because there are people that do.
Hmm.
Um, I am seeing a lot of traction on TikTok for this show, and I know once you get into an algorithm, more videos are coming. But the
Yeah.
fact that I'm seeing different videos, uh, I can't watch them all because some people don't know what terminology is. I saw somebody referring to Brandon Routh in the CW Crisis as a cameo, and I'm like, he was in 2 solid episodes. That was more than a cameo. He was like one of the Paragons. So, but I'm seeing a lot of people talking about it, and I like that. I had to swear to God at work tell one of my associates to stop watching My Adventures with Superman and check out a customer. It was the weirdest thing I have ever had to do. And some people say that we're now living in the darkest timeline, but he had asked me about it earlier in the day. And I was just like, I haven't seen the last 2 episodes. And I literally look over and he's got his earbud in and he's watching it at the register, ignoring customers. And I'm like, do I have to do this? Me, of all walking planet Earth right now, I'm the one that has to do this. So.
Wow, the positions we're put in. But yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, I'm seeing a whole slew of new fans that are joining our YouTube channel. We've got like an influx of newer subscribers because we've been promoting My Adventures with Superman. And it's, that young 20 to 30 age group that, we haven't been a part of for quite some time. But they are really enjoying the series and are coming on board, and they're finding the Superman homepage because of this. So this is fantastic.
Yeah, it's interesting that you're in this weird position culturally that you have seen this happen like 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
Because you watched it happen with Smallville, you watched it happen with Man of Steel, and now it's happening again with this. It's kind of I feel like Superman and Lois grabbed a new audience, but it didn't. It's not like something that drove traffic to the site necessarily.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just an observation. But yeah, it's. I'm glad because unfortunately, 20 and 30-year-olds really aren't getting into comics.
No,
they weren't. That wasn't something that was a deep part of their childhood that they will continue. But you can grab them with something like this and make them a fan of the character. And it's a broad church, and we, like I keep saying, we just got to be welcoming to this.
Exactly. All right, well, we're well over the halfway mark of tonight's show. We're going to play some quick messages, come back on the flip side to do our regular segment and talk about comic books. We'll be back right after this. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be back in a moment with the exciting climax of today's episode. So stand by.
If you're enjoying Superman Homepage Live, then please like and share this video with your family and friends. Also, if you'd like to subscribe to our YouTube channel, then you can click on the bell to receive notifications whenever we post a new video. You can also join our YouTube membership program. Just click the join button below. Or you can become a patron and support our website by going to patreon.com/Superman homepage.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Thanks, Superman Homepage, for all the support over the years. I really appreciate it.
I'm Matt Bomer. I'm the voice of Superman in Superman Unbound, and this is the Superman Homepage.
Right here on Superman Homepage.
Coming from the farthest reaches of the universe to challenge the worst villains on Earth are the most powerful heroes ever in the Battle of the Superpowers Collection. Can it be the Supermobile on the attack, the Lexor 7 armed with kryptonite? Will the Supermobile repel those deadly rays?
You bet. Ready for battle. Activate RAM.
New from Kenner's Superpowers Collection. Vehicles and figures with power action, each sold separately. Flying lessons for Penguin, fish bait for Luther. Can the Supermobile defeat the Lexor 7? You decide.
And we're back on Superman homepage live, where I should remind you that one of our promotions is with Bluehost, the web hosting service where you can get up to 70% off for your WordPress or WooCommerce hosting. You can have it all. Get started. Just go to supermanhomepage.com/Bluehost. Excellent web hosting service, especially for WordPress. All right, so jumping back into our regular segments. Here is Michael doing This Week in History.
Come with me now, my son, as we break through the bars of your earthly confinement, traveling through time and space.
Not a huge week this week, not like last week where we blew through it in a hurry. But going back to 1943, we were starting with Action Comics, number 65. Giant props are becoming a thing in comics, so that's kind of cool. And man, that's gotta hurt getting hit in the face with one of those things.
Especially that drawer full of cash.
Jumping ahead to 1963, we have Superboy, number 108. Yeah, okay. That of course they had a super son before Clark, because that's a plot they did 1,000 times. And you also had that same year Jimmy Olsen, number 72, where Jimmy Olsen is going to the worst convention ever. The World of Doomed Olsens.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. Like, how are you where you're 72 issues into your title and you've done such stuff like this so much that there's like an entire cover of it? 1973, we have Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane, number 135. The Amazing Afterlife of Lois Lane. Well, if you're hurling through the air on a car, you're going to die. We also had World's Finest, number 220. She might have a good personality. I'm not going to argue that. Yeah, you were once beautiful. I'm having more of a problem that you're holding us up against a wall. It has nothing to do with your looks at this point. 1983, we have I think, am I right about this? This is not the Daring New Adventures of Supergirl. This is Supergirl, number 13, where she got a costume change for the upcoming movie.
Happy first anniversary.
Yeah, that didn't really save her book, unfortunately, or her, because she was killed soon after. In 1993,
a lot of death in this episode.
Yeah, it's it's a thing in comics. Adventures of Superman Annual number 5 came out this week in 1993. The first appearance of the Bloodlines hero and future star of Superboy and the Ravers, Sparks. And Superman, the Man of Steel, number 26. We are still dealing with the fact that covers are done far in advance, sometimes, of the Rain book, which is why Superman has short hair. 2003, this is the one that's getting me. I don't know why 2003 is hitting me harder and harder as we go, but because I can't believe that was 20 years ago. Because that means, oh my God. Anyways, Adventures of Superman, number 619. Which has a very nice Kevin Nowlan cover on it. I have no idea. I have no memory of what's in that book. JLA number 84. This is getting kind of towards the end of Joe Kelly's run. We're about to go up into Justice League Elite, which was one of my early review assignments for the homepage when I was writing books. Superman and Batman Generations 3, number 8. This was my favorite issue of this title. This was when he went back and saw his parents in like the Old West and had Jonah Hex in it. And it had the most tragic reason why Martha can't have children. It was just a really well done issue. Really the only one that I really liked. And it's really been 20 years since Teen Titans number 2 came out. And we got the easiest cosplay ever for people who want to dress like Superboy. 2013 Justice League of America #7. The only reason I'm mentioning this is that this is part 4 of Trinity War, which led into Forever Evil. We also had Smallville Season 11, #16, which is a really cool cover. I like those bracelets. And I thought the book had been canceled by this point, but Superboy #23. Yeah, okay. In the real world, on August 14th, Phyllis Thaxter, who played Martha Kent in Superman the movie, was born not in 2013. I wrote down the wrong year. She was born on this day. That's really all that's important. Was it 1913? I guess it might have been 1913.
Could have been.
August 15th is former official Superman of the Superman celebration in Metropolis, Illinois, Scott Cranford. He was born in 1967.
Nice fella.
And, I'm a little disappointed that I never got to meet him because he did seem like a nice guy.
Yeah, really good.
And August 17th is, I love these, traditionally recognized as the birthday of Lois Lane. And that is This Week in History.
Oh, happy birthday, Lois, even though you're a fictional character.
Even fictional characters get birthdays.
Yeah, exactly. And she gets one every year. You only get one every 4 years.
Yeah, it's a thing. But it's okay. I get to turn 12 next year, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Very cool. So thank you. That was This Week in History. Let's move into the fan favorite segment of our show. Before we get into the question from last week, Geiger68 in the comments says, speaking of Superman stuff, Steve or Michael, did you guys pick up the newest Life magazine covering 85 years of Superman? I picked up the issue. I've been looking for it. I don't think we get Life. Yeah, I don't think we get Life magazine here in Australia. I think it's exclusive to the US. That one and the other one that was out. We spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. The other 85 year. Not sure which. I think it was just.
No, I've been on the look for it at both Publix and Walmart, which is usually where I find them. And it's funny because I've noticed, they're like everybody else gets them. Like they have so many of those over here. It's not even funny. And I was joking with a friend. I asked him if he was a big fan of Kiss, and like a super fan of Kiss, and I'm like, did you pick it? I saw it at the thing. I said, did you pick it up? And he went on this long, lengthy explanation of how, it may be like the end of the road for the band. They're getting older, blah, blah, blah. And they've done actually 3 of those. And then at the end, he's like, and I bought all 3. So
short story.
Game recognizes game and all that. So,
yeah. The other one was Remind magazine, that was out with. But so I didn't get any of those. Phyllis Thaxter, everyone's saying, was born in 1919.
On November 20th.
So yeah,
and she died on August 14th. I guess I misread that. When I was. To be fair, I was rushing when I did that today. So
I was going to say I didn't think it was her birthday, but So sadly, she passed away on August 14th,
in 2012.
2012, yes. So in Longwood, Florida. Thank you for everyone correcting us on that. Yeah, 92. She looked pretty old. Obviously they aged her up for the later scenes in Superman
the
movie,
about to say.
because she didn't look that old when they first found the baby. But by all accounts, she was a lovely, lovely lady.
Yeah, it's always sad that we keep talking about death.
Let's get into this fan favorite segment of our show. What was our question from last week, Michael?
What was your favorite villain from Superman the Animated Series? And JP Brocha was our only person to write in, which I'm actually kind of surprised at. Is my favorite villain from Superman the Animated Series is Parasite. In general, the show had good character development for its villains, but you feel for Rudy more than the others because the parasite was forced on him. Rudy. I especially like the part of the episode where all the other villains gave their spot to him on the team so he could suit up for the last game. No, that never happened. That's the movie Rudy. Um, so
Great movie, that Rudy.
no, it's interesting because the more I rewatch this series, because my wife and I were watching a couple episodes. Now that we've cut the cord on cable, we have to find other things to watch, and an episode of Superman the Animated Series or Justice League or Batman actually is good like dinner viewing because it takes about that amount of time to eat and to watch it. I think the animated series does not get enough credit for reinvigorating Superman's villains, mainly because the show didn't have the reach that Batman the Animated Series did.
Sure.
There were just more episodes of Batman the Animated Series. Just in sheer numbers, it had more opportunities. But I can't think of a single villain that they reconceptualized that wasn't either an upgrade or just a really cool version and a cool take on that villain.
Yeah, exactly. In the comments, Mind the Gap says Brainiac was a revelation in the show. Like, I think most people connect Brainiac to Superman the Animated Series when they think of that version of the character. When they think of Brainiac, they connect to that version of the character. Lunatic Butcher in the comments says Bizarro is my absolute favorite. So
does that mean it's his least favorite?
Yeah. Is he talking backwards? Yeah. Bizarro talk.
And Butson, of course, Gilbert Godfrey is Mixie. I don't really consider him a villain, though. That's the thing. He's a pest, but I think his second appearance, where he's like the friend you don't want to show up every 90 days. But no, his episode with Bizarro was actually really sweet. In a way, just in showing how those two characters, and again, I think their take on Bizarro was the correct take. It's kind of tragic, but never a monster. I don't like monster Bizarro. I don't like zombie Bizarro. I just think it's a terrible take on the character.
So yeah, as you say, so many great versions of Superman's Rogues Gallery in Superman the Animated Series. So thank you for JP for sending in that response, and thank you to everyone commenting live as we discuss that on the show tonight. So our new fan favorite question, Michael, is what for this week?
Oh, it's a good one. Who is your favorite freak of the week from Smallville? And why is it one of the cast members from Home Improvement? You got two to choose from on that one.
So yeah, I mean, it's kind of on the same line of what we've been discussing over the last couple of weeks with the favorite villains from, we had Super Friends and now Superman the Animated Series. But Smallville was famous for doing Freak of the Week. So yeah, kind of twisted it on that kind of way. And so what is your favorite Freak of the Week from the TV series Smallville? Let's send us in your answers to the email address scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now. If you're listening later on, it's info@supermanhomepage.com. Again, that's info@supermanhomepage.com. We will read out the responses that we receive when we return to this segment next week. All right, looking at the comic book side of things, here is the comic books that you should be reading this week if you're a Superman fan, or you might be interested in reading if you're a Superman fan. Well, there only are two of them. The first one is Batman Superman World's Finest number 18, which is available in a couple of different variant covers. There's obviously a Blue Beetle one commemorating the movie coming out in theaters, and there's many variant covers. There's also Night Terror's Superman number 2, the second of a two-part series that ties into the Night Terror's story. That is available this week as well, and that is the background that's behind me at the moment right now. So they're the two comic books available this week for Superman fans reading comic books.
One of those variant covers to Batman Superman looked like two McFarlane figures drawn out, kind of the beefy. Speaking of McFarlane figures, fresh from Books A Million.
Yes.
It is the regular. It is not the chase.
Okay. Yes.
But based on a tip from somebody on Twitter, I went over to Books A Million and found him. So it was I didn't have to order him or anything. It was just right there, which is
Very good.
more satisfying sometimes.
Very cool. Yes, sometimes finding them in the wild is quite cool. All right, so that's the comic book side of things. If you are in the US, DC's online shop, has a number of cool Warner Brothers 100-year anniversary merchandise items, including a poster and T-shirt made up of this design by Raul Urias, and then there's a kind of a samurai Superman. Also, this one by Yoki Shimizu. I'm probably eating up those names, but there's also some T-shirts featuring some cool designs of the characters, sketches, and this pretty cool one of Clark Kent's fedora and glasses.
That's an interesting one. I will say that. I don't know if I'd want that personally, but I like the fact that it exists.
Yeah. So yeah, they're new merchandise celebrating Warner Brothers 100th anniversary. A couple of T-shirts and wall art, as well as those wall arts are available on T-shirts, if you know what I mean. So that's pretty cool. And that pretty much brings us to the end of tonight's episode. Anything you want to touch on, Michael, before we wrap up?
You know, buying the McFarlane figure, I actually have to give the action figure side of things some props. For years, we would go through, like getting a Superman figure, it seemed to be like pulling teeth. And even though they're not all something I want to buy, like my wife showed me a picture of the deceased Superman McFarlane figure, and I'm like, I don't really need undead Superman in my collection at this point. But the fact that more and more we're seeing merchandise for him, and he is getting, the original art, the original photos of this first appearance one weren't all that good, but the final version ended up being kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of glad that we're actually in a position where Superman, the movie's on hold, but that's just because of external forces that has nothing to do with Superman or the studio. The animated series is bringing in a whole new audience of people. At some point next year, we're going to get a new season, the fourth season of Superman and Lois. The comics continue to be amazing. So it's just, I know we've talked about this before. It's just weird to be in this position.
It is indeed. Also, I just want to let everyone know that the next issue of the Superman homepage newsletter, the Big Blue Report, will be going out tomorrow. So if you want to subscribe, if you're not a subscriber, that's a great way to be able to get content that we don't necessarily publish on the website. So it's a great way to do that. Just go to supermanhomepage.com and you'll see the sign up for the newsletter. I think even go supermanhomepage.com/newsletter. But that's it for tonight's episode. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Superman Homepage Live. We appreciate you spending the last hour with us, whether you're doing it live or whether you've been doing it through the podcast or later on. We appreciate your company. Michael and I will be back next week on August 21st, Monday, August 21st at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time for another edition of Superman Homepage Live. We hope you'll join us then. Until then, thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham, John Patrick Van Pelt, and to you, my co-host, Michael Bailey. Thank you very much.
Pleasure as always, Steve.
So yes, make sure you keep an eye on supermanhomepage.com for all your daily news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. I'm Steve Eunice. On behalf of myself and Michael Bailey, thanks for watching Superman Homepage Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com. Good night.